So welcome, everyone. It's so great to see everyone here today. My name is Ngozi Mezi. I'm the Executive Director of the DC Mayor's Office on African Affairs, and I want to welcome you to OAA's second annual From DC to Africa, Growing Local, Going Global Business Symposium. Our symposium has been brought to you in partnership with the DC Small and Local Business Development, DC's Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, and the U.S. Department of Commerce, who we'll hear from a little bit later on today. And really, our aim today really is to support you, all of our aspiring entrepreneurs and existing businesses here in the District of Columbia, through connecting you all to local, federal, and international opportunities. As part of OAA's capacity building program and our business engagement development and support series, we hope to be able to facilitate connections and nurture the growth of the business community right here in the District of Columbia. So legislatively, the Office on African Affairs is mandated, or legislatively mandated, to serve the African community right here in the District of Columbia. The American Community Survey counts that community to approximately 16,000 foreign-born Africans here in DC. And really, our mission is to ensure that the African community has access to different services, including services and resources and information and regulations on business development. And we really aim to remove any type of barriers and facilitate one-on-one connections and larger connections with district government, resource agencies and larger agencies, federal government, nonprofit, whatever type of resources exist. We want to make sure that we're connecting you all to those resources that are here. So we know that just based on the fact that we do a lot of constituent services within the office, we have a huge number of our constituent cases that come back that have to do with business, establishing a business, or being able to be connected to services to nurture a business here in DC. And that really just by and large feeds into the fact that most immigrants, kind of come from different countries all over the world, in our case from African countries, in pursuit of the American dream. Most folks that do come over from the continent and settle here in the United States of America in general, or in DC in particular, have been interested in pursuing or at least nurturing that spirit of entrepreneurship and starting a business. And there's many statistics that float around largely that promote and actually clarify folks that migrate and the heightened interest in starting businesses. So with that being said, there are definitely trends, and you're responsible. I know a lot of the entrepreneurs that are here today are from different varying countries. We know that the top 10 sending countries, or top sending countries in DC, are Ethiopia, Nigeria, we have Cameroon represented, we have Sierra Leone, and a slew of other countries. There are over 50 countries, African countries, that are represented here in DC by the African population that resides here. And we know that a lot of our community members are also responsible for remitting. So there are responsibilities here that they have to their communities and to the national community, but also to their indigenous communities back on the continent. So how many folks here have sent money back to their country of origin, or back to family members that are overseas to support them and in their basic development needs? How many? Raise your hand, don't be shy. Okay. Yeah, so that right there is very important, and it's a strategy that or a fact that a lot of, I should say, the federal government, particularly the State Department and other agencies, have really tapped into. So with that being said, I should also even mention that the World Bank estimates that approximately $40 billion, in 2012, $40 billion was sent back to the continent by the African diaspora. And that number actually surpasses foreign direct investment on the continent of Africa. So that just goes to show the importance of the African diaspora in the development on the continent, and that just clarifies that fact. So since we're right on the heels of Global Entrepreneurship Week, I think we're just one day off, right? Today's program really supports our Mayor Vincent C. Gray's administration's One City Action Plan, and really aims to bolster one of our administration's top priorities, which is growing and diversifying the district's economy. Because by connecting you all as aspiring entrepreneurs and existing businesses to resources and opportunities that help you grow and expand your businesses domestically, and also by encouraging you and existing new district businesses, or existing businesses rather, to venture into trade and investment in Africa through federal, local, and nonprofit programs and resources. We really endeavor to support you in your business development efforts and also to nurture the district's business community. Of course, this will in turn, Mr. Mayor, strengthen our city's economic development or economic resilience, and also expand our tax base, and of course, hopefully support job development, right? Because as entrepreneurs here in the city, eventually you'll branch out and you'll create jobs and you'll hire district residents. So that's what we hope to support. And I was speaking with the mayor earlier just now about the State Department's International Diaspora Engagement Alliance, which refers to you all, or categorizes all of the African diaspora businesses as diasporaneurship. And that's really just wanting to expand entrepreneurship in the African diaspora and other diasporas that constitute our American communities here, and investing through supporting their diaspora entrepreneurs and investing and building sustainable enterprises, as well as stimulating trade in their countries of origin. So with all of that being said, there's quite a bit to go over today, and I think we have quite a program in store for you all. There are over 20 different district government agencies, local, federal, and nonprofit agencies present at the symposium, and they're all here ready to answer any questions that you all may have about your businesses and specific business resources and services. And the morning segment, which we'll cover in just a bit, really focuses on growing local, so more domestic panels around local and federal contracting, starting a business here in DC, accessing capital for new ventures, et cetera, et cetera. And the afternoon panel, which I think is, which I would be honest, is really a really big draw for today's symposium, will focus on DC Africa international trade and investment opportunities. So some examples of the Going Global panels will be around financing trade and investment initiatives, country-specific investments, and business opportunities in Africa. So we did not work on this by ourselves. The Office on African Affairs, of course, partnered with wonderful district government agencies, including the Department of Small and Local Business Development, which is led by Rob Sumner, who's sitting right over here. Rob, do you want to just wave at everybody here? And also DC's Department of Consumer and Regulatory Affairs, Nick Majette, who's been wonderful and is super supportive of the office. And of course, the U.S. Department of Commerce, which of course we have our Deputy Secretary, or Acting Deputy Secretary Patrick Gallagher here, who we hear from in a little bit of time. I'd also like to thank and recognize our presenting agencies. I've already mentioned DSLBD, DCRA, we have ABRA, our Alcohol and Beverage Regulation Administration, the Deputy Mayor's Office on Planning and Economic Development, the Department of Insurance, Securities and Banking, the Office of Contracting and Procurement, U.S. Small Business Administration, DC Economic Partnership. Come on, guys, roll with me on this one. It's a little long, I know, but got to recognize everyone. Enterprise Development Group, Ovamba, the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, Export-Import Bank, the Washington Area Community Investment Fund, Wells Fargo Bank, DC Women's Business Center, Department of Commerce, particularly the International Trade Administration, the U.S. Export Assistance Center, which is also under the Department of Commerce, and of course trade specialists from various African embassies. I believe we have the Nigerian Embassy, the Angolan Embassy, and Mauritius, and 2 representatives from the U.S. Department of Commerce trade specialists that will cover Ethiopia and Senegal. So I wanted to also, of course, thank staff, the OAA staff, who has been very instrumental in pulling together this program, pulling together today's program, specifically Winter Teferi, who is the office's program analyst, who, of course, I got to put you out there, right? Who is going to be moving on to the Office of Human Rights to lead, or at least be the acting director for the Language Access Program. If you want to learn more about that program, please speak with her directly. Sharif El Hassan, who has joined us from Sudan. Sharif, want to wave to everybody? He's been a wonderful support for the office. He's actually a physician. He's earned his credentials in Sudan, and he's here working as our Public Health and Policy Fellow. Sadeh Arige, who's right over here, who's joined us through AmeriCorps Vista program. She is our Business Development Specialist. Aliyu, who's standing right beside him. Aliyu's been with us on and off for about a year. He started as an intern. He's now a volunteer, but he's done wonderful work with the office. Kesha, who I just saw over here, right there. Kesha is our outreach intern. Hermela, our communications intern, who's floating around here. And, of course, Caleb here, who does our grants and research. Want to wave, Caleb? Okay. So thank you all so much for your work and hard work in pulling together today's program. And of course, thank you all for joining us. And now, the only thing standing between me, the program, is a couple of the folks that have to speak. Ms. Mayor's like, okay, guys, come on. So at this point in time, I wanted to invite the mayor to the podium. I was actually just speaking with the mayor, as I mentioned earlier, and, you know, he really stressed the importance and what's been very essential to him around connecting with communities here in D.C., district communities directly, not through Facebook, not through Instagram, not through Twitter. You know, the mayor has really been instrumental in making sure that our office has been standing and really producing and doing wonderful work to in turn serve you all. And he's very passionate about the work, passionate about touching communities and having his pulse on the community. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mayor Vincent C. Gray to the podium. Give him a warm welcome.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. I was just commenting, I guess we were commenting to each other. Dr. Gallagher and I were talking about, we looked at this picture from last year, which was the first, and then we look at this room. And my goodness, there must be twice as many people in this room as there were last year. So let me say thanks to Ngozi for the work that she and her staff have done in order to bring us together today. And I want to thank all of you for coming out. We realize this is Thanksgiving week, but it fortunately hasn't deterred anybody from wanting to come out and be a part of this second annual DC to Africa Business Symposium. Our theme this year is growing local, going global. And by the way, before I go further, I want to make sure we recognize the director of our Office of Grants and Partnerships, who does a lot of work as well on issues affecting the African continent, and that is Lafayette Barnes. Lafayette, we're glad to have you here today, too, as well. Economic development really is at the core of a lot of what we do, and frankly, if you don't get the business aspect straight, it's pretty hard to do well at the others. When we started our administration in January of 2011, we set a number of goals. One was fiscal stability, and that is to bring the city back to a point where we could feel comfortable with where we were. And we now, fortunately, have $1.5 billion in the bank, which I think is one of the most secure, at least financially anyway, jurisdictions in America. We said we were going to work to continue to reform education here in the District of Columbia. And for those of you who follow this, I'm sure you saw the test scores, the National Assessment of Education Progress scores that our children achieved just a few weeks ago that were announced. And it was one of those areas, Dr. Gallagher, where we were considered a state. And it is wonderful to be able to be considered a state, at least for those terms anyway. And of the 51 states, 51, the District of Columbia was at the top of those 51 in terms of educational progress made by our children. If you go through and do the analysis, you will find that in a number of the important indices, like closing the achievement gap, the bottom 10% came up substantially. All of those important indices, our children improved, which means they are going to be important contributors to our economy in the future. Public safety, we know how important that is. And then the other area, which I know is important to everybody in this room, and that is being able to create a vital and vibrant economic development program here in the District of Columbia, and being able to get people to work. Many of you all run small businesses. You're part of small businesses. And however big we may become, small businesses will continue to be the lifeblood of the city. Somewhere between 75 and 85% of the businesses in the city are small businesses. And frankly, I suspect that the definition of small business would fit virtually everybody who is in this room. That's why we established being able to grow and diversify our economy as one of the three most important goals for us here in the District of Columbia. And that's what we've done. We've tried to work to support business owners in the city, as well as entrepreneurs like yourself. Some of those things that are beginning to grow include, I don't know how many of you are familiar with our 1776 incubator, which didn't even exist at this time last year. It is located over on 15th Street Northwest, and is giving those with great innovative ideas a chance to really develop those ideas around technology. Again, at this time last year, the 1776 initiative was only an idea of a couple of entrepreneurs here in the city, Donna Harris and Evan Burfield. We worked with them. We are investors. And today, they have 175 startup firms located in their quarters over on 15th Street. There may be some of you here today who are involved in that. But if you have good ideas around technology, we'd love to be able to work with you and create opportunities for you to be able to pursue that. Our Export DC program is a grant that's being administered, overseen by the Department of Small Local Business Development. You heard Rob Summers introduced earlier, and his department is the one that's actually overseeing that program as we work to connect our businesses with opportunities outside of the United States. And we know that the African continent is one of those areas where we should be working hard and working harder. Our Great Streets Capital Improvement Program, which is making investments in the upgrading of businesses so they can do business here in the city. There are dollars available for those opportunities, and we hope that you will work with us to be able to pursue those opportunities. And of course, I don't know if you know what's going on. I know you do, Lafayette, at St. Elizabeth's. How many of you are familiar with St. Elizabeth's? Good. The District of Columbia owns the east side of that campus, 180 plus acres of development opportunity. It was at one time, a number of decades ago, a huge mental health facility. But the day is long gone when we need a facility of that magnitude. In fact, it had 7,000 patients in it at one point. Today, we have a much more modern hospital that was finished a few years ago, and we have now only 250 people who actually live in the hospital, and some of those are very short stays. People come and they go. So the rest of the campus is available for development, and I want to make sure you all understand the opportunities that exist there. We're trying to create, among other things, a technology hub for ourselves, for the city there. And we now have 3 innovation centers that are coming there for which a commitment has been made by some very large firms. Sidlam, which is a French lighting firm, will be coming to the St. Elizabeth's campus to locate its North American headquarters there. SmartBIM, BIM being an acronym for Building Information Management, will be bringing an innovation center there. And just a week and a half ago, Dr. Gallagher, we found out that a small firm, little firm from Redmond, Washington, headquartered in Redmond, Washington, will be developing its first innovation center outside of Redmond, Washington in the United States on the campus of St. Elizabeth's right here in Ward 8 of the District of Columbia, and that is a firm you may have heard of called Microsoft. So we're very excited about those opportunities, and we hope you are as well. So one of the things that we are doing, and a lot of the folks in this room are working with us. Steve Glaudet, who's our Director of Community Affairs, has 13 offices that are involved in his purview, is working with us to make sure these things happen. But we have we've entered into an agreement to recognize the importance of our African nations. We are entering into an agreement, a sister city agreement, to develop our first African nation sister city agreement, and that will be with one of the nations that Ngozi mentioned, and that is Ethiopia. And it will be Addis Ababa specifically. I want to invite you to the ceremony. It will be at the Wilson Building. It will be on December 11th at 5:30, and it will be in the ceremonial room, which is on the 5th floor. And so I'd like to invite you all to come down and be a part of it, because it will be such a historic moment for us here in the city, and hopefully a historic moment for those who are native to Addis Ababa, or those who may be visiting our country from Addis Ababa. You know, The International Monetary Fund has cited data that indicate that 8 out of the 20 fastest growing economies in the world are from the African continent. That is a huge percentage. And if you really want to grow and diversify the economy, if you really want to be contemporary in how we are moving forward, won't it be important for us to be able to continue to develop those relationships and demonstrate how there can be mutual benefit to the African continent and, of course, to the United States and specifically the District of Columbia. I'm delighted today to have Dr. Patrick Gallagher to join us. He has quite an impressive background. He is the Acting Deputy Secretary of Commerce as of, I think, June 1 of this year. And he was, I guess, previously confirmed as the 14th Director of the U.S. Department of Commerce's National Institute of Standards and Technology. And if any of you know what that is, I would be mightily impressed. Sounds pretty important to me, Dr. Gallagher. In any event, he has a very impressive background. He's expanded the participation of NIST, often acting in a leadership role with collaborative efforts, working between government and the private sector to be able to help people understand how NIST can facilitate the continued growth and development of our society. He is a research physicist, and in 1993, I guess it was, he worked as a research physicist and instrument scientist at the NIST Center for Neutron Research. How many people have ever worked in that capacity before? Very impressive, Dr. Gallagher, and we appreciate you coming today to help us understand even more so how we can work closely with the Department of Commerce, which we do to some extent already, but there are ways in which we can expand that relationship. He earned his PhD in physics at the University of Pittsburgh, and has a bachelor's degree in physics and philosophy. What a combination. Physics and philosophy. I'm not even going to ask you how you bring those two things together. But science and philosophy, I suppose there's a good explanation for that. Who is it? Rene Descartes talked about mind and heart. So maybe that's where it comes together. In any event, please join me in welcoming our speaker for the morning, Dr. Patrick Gallagher.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you, Mayor, for that wonderful introduction and for the invitation, and but most of all for your leadership. This is remarkable. It's hard to believe this is year 2, and I can already tell you're going to need a bigger room next year for this. The Mayor has been a great partner, and although I now know in educational matters, Governor Gray, it's good to have your involvement.
Thank you very much.
So it's really a pleasure to be here, and I want to thank you all for welcoming us here today. I want to thank everyone who's attending this morning, not just from the city of D.C., but I also want to thank all of my federal partners who are here to help out. But most of all, I want to thank all the business leaders who are here today, who are looking for opportunities to expand and grow your business. And in particular, let me thank the Office on African Affairs for organizing the event, and in particular for this first anniversary of the Doing Business in Africa campaign. So it's interesting, the Mayor mentioned 1776. So just a week ago, 2 weeks ago, Secretary Pritzker, the new Secretary of Commerce, laid out her open for business agenda for the Commerce Department and the administration at 1776. She chose that venue because it epitomized, this focus on entrepreneurship and growing businesses. And in that agenda that she laid out, there were 4 major areas, and the top one was trade and investment. It was one of our key priorities for the department, and I think everyone in this room can understand why that's the case. The President announced the National Export Initiative at the beginning of his administration. Last year, the United States hit a record $2.2 trillion in exports. But as good as that is, we are still a country that under-exports. And what we're going to try to do under the Secretary's new National Export Initiative 2.0 agenda is to really try to focus on changing the DNA of American business communities to help more businesses like yours export to more places like sub-Saharan Africa. President Obama has said that Africa is poised to be the world's next great economic success story. In fact, today, sub-Saharan Africa accounts for 6 of the 10 fastest growing economies in the world. And the International Monetary Fund is projecting 5 to 6% growth in the coming years. We would love to have growth rates like that here. But last year, there were only $26 billion of U.S. goods exported to sub-Saharan Africa. That's about 2% of our exports. We've got to do better. When the President was in sub-Saharan Africa last July, he outlined his commitment to strengthen our ties with the region, to bolster trade and investment. In fact, trade and investment are going to be key to that relationship. And we are working to fulfill that commitment, in part through partnerships like the one we're here today. This is the type of all-of-government, all-hands-on-deck approach that can work to make the connections necessary to give businesses like yours the opportunities to grow and to sell all around the world. And it's interesting, Mayor, I think there's already been some exciting progress. So in the first half of this year, our companies, U.S. companies, have exported $1 billion more goods to sub-Saharan Africa than in 2012. Maybe that was from the first summit, so that's great news. We have trained our trade specialists in more than 100 offices on how to counsel firms to do business in Africa and to connect them with new opportunities. We've begun to see, and you'll see it today, unprecedented coordination across the federal agencies that can support you in your efforts to expand your business. And we've launched some new trade shows. In fact, the Water and Environment Show last month was held in Chicago. And at the President's request, Secretary Pritzker will be attending a trade mission to sub-Saharan Africa in the near future. There's growing demand for U.S. products and services in sub-Saharan Africa from everything from airplanes to energy technology. And we want to do everything we can to make sure businesses like yours get in on the game. In addition, how many of you have heard of the Advocacy Center? So we have to do better at that, too. The Advocacy Center is a program within the Commerce Department that supports American businesses who seek to export their goods and services. In the most recent year, fiscal year 13, for those who speak Fed, the Advocacy Center helped American companies win government procurements in Africa totaling $187 million, with more than $144 million in U.S. export content. So if you have an export challenge, the Advocacy Center is a key resource for you. In fact, right now the center has 62 pending cases in sub-Saharan Africa. That reflects a tender totaling $59 billion in sales, with about $18 billion in potential U.S. export content. And when the Advocacy Center is working on a case, basically the entire federal government is working on your behalf. And we stand ready to help you if you have opportunities to work with governments in Africa. The other thing that we try to do in commerce is to make connections, to work with you in outfits, in efforts like the Doing Business in Africa campaign. It's through partnerships that the connections that are so essential to business take place. And in particular, we want to partner with the diaspora community here in D.C. and across the country to alert them to the types of services that the federal agencies can provide, whether that's market counseling, financing, or just navigating the ins and outs of export. And this includes bringing even more potential African partners and buyers to U.S. trade shows, highlighting key sectors of opportunity that we've identified, such as healthcare, consumer goods, agribusiness, infrastructure, and energy. Continuing collaboration with the administration's Power Africa initiative to double access to electricity in sub-Saharan Africa, and also to address trade barriers that exist in the region including through forums such as the East Africa Community and the U.S. Commercial Dialogue. And right here in D.C., we have a number of resources to help as well. We have 3 minority business development agency centers that offer export consulting services, among other things. Some of them are here today. We have the North Virginia U.S. Export Assistance Center that works closely with Export DC, Director Bill Fanjoy. And we also have the International Trade Administration, which has African desk officers who are market specialists, and they're participating in the conference today. Can I ask everyone from Commerce to raise your hand so you can make sure you find these folks? And supporting Africa as it builds a stronger foundation for long-term economic growth and prosperity is a win-win, both for Africa and for the United States. And I want to thank all of you for your effort in making that happen. I also invite you to check our export.gov website. If you do export.gov/Africa, you will find the latest information and events that can help you as you grow your businesses. And I, for one, am pleased to commit our resources to the Commerce Department to support you, and I look forward to working with you as we grow these businesses. Again, thanks for the opportunity to come this morning.
Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor and Acting Deputy Secretary, Dr. Patrick Gallagher. I think in all my eagerness to get the 2 gentlemen to the podium, I kind of skirted through a few things, but I did want to also recognize and, of course, thank the Director of Community Affairs, Steve Glaudet, who's right here. Steve, you could just stand up for a moment. Okay. As the mayor had mentioned, Steve does have a really kind of heavy undertaking in managing 13 different offices, 3 of which are ethnic constituency offices: the Office on African Affairs, the Office on Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs, and the Office of Latino Affairs. And then also I did see Julie Koo. She was here earlier today. Okay, yep, there she is. Julie's the Director of Asian and Pacific Islander Affairs. She's also another director that is in Steve Glaudet's purview. Okay, so with that being said, I wanted to, and we all wanted to, as I say, the Office on African Affairs and of course the mayor and everyone, kind of really properly contextualize today's program by bringing up a local business leader, Buwa Binitie, who has been wonderfully supportive of the office and does wonderful work here in DC. And Buwa is going to come and provide us with some riveting, energetic remarks to get us all riled up. So please help me welcome Buwa Binitie.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm not exactly sure how you follow a physicist and the mayor of the District of Columbia, but I'll try my best. You know, I got to tell you, our mayor, my mayor, there's a lot that we businessmen can learn from him. I feel like he runs the district government like a true entrepreneur. I don't know how you get Walmart and Microsoft in 1 year to come to the District of Columbia, but that's impressive. So please, let's give it up. So I may have to come to you and get some pointers in how you convince folks. But thank you, everyone. I got to tell you, I really have to congratulate Ngozi and the rest of the Office of African American Staff for putting together such a spectacular event. When I started my company in 2005, we didn't have such resources. I didn't have such resources. So thank you so much for putting together such a phenomenal event and beautifully representing us Africans and making us proud. So everyone else on the staff, thank you. Again, I just had to give a quick shout out to my mayor, Mayor Gray, for his leadership and commitment. I mean, this is commitment right here. You've got the mayor of the District of Columbia here first thing in the morning, letting you know that he's committed to see others like me, like you, succeed in the District of Columbia, and to also let you know that the District of Columbia is open for business. So thank you. Also, Dr. Gallagher, thanks for your insight and exposing even me to how the U.S. Commerce works. So I will be knocking on your doors very soon. My name, for those of you who may not know, my full name is Buwa Binitie. I know most people tend to call me Buwa. We had some issues when I came to America, so they had to keep it. They had to keep it short. But anyway, that's my full name, and I hail from Nigeria. I started my company, Dante's Partners, here in the District of Columbia, so I am locally based. I also live in the district in 2006. You know, we grew from a very small real estate consulting company to now contributing to the skyline of the District of Columbia by developing housing for people of modest means. So, you know, I myself, I'm jittery whenever I drive around, and I'm able to show my daughters like, oh, that's Daddy's project. That's so it's happening. It's happening, and I'm extremely proud of that. You know, to date, we've financed and developed over $250 million worth of real estate, and produced over 900 units. And I stand here before you extremely proud of the fact that my company is going to assist the mayor with his $187 million announcement that he made last week to help spur more affordable housing in the District of Columbia. That's $187 million. So the fact that you know, my company is witness here today and providing testament to let you know that you know, we come from, I came, you know, I did the same thing that everyone else is doing to the point where we can take advantage of that. You know, my story in D.C. is, look, I've had the fortunate pleasure of living. I went to school in New York. I lived in New York. I lived in San Francisco. Lived in L.A. A brief stint in Chicago. And there is no mistake as to why I decided to basically plant my roots here in the District of Columbia in 2001. And it really is because of the fact that I've always felt that the district is extremely accessible and a great place to be for entrepreneurs. And again, that's a testament here. You know, when we talk about the American dream, you know, we talk as, you know, as immigrants, we talk about how America is the land of opportunity. And it's interesting because I feel like the district really truly embodies what our ancestors sought from America, which is a symbol of prosperity and hope, regardless of social class and circumstances of birth. The district, ladies and gentlemen, like I said before, is open for business. And by its actions today, I mean, the fact that you all are here first thing in the morning is a constant reminder to myself that the district is continually making opportunities available for you and your businesses to prosper here in the district, such that you too can experience the American dream. The fact that the Office of African Affairs exists to pull off such an event today, again, is a testament of the mayor's leadership in ensuring that we are part of a fabric that makes the district support foreigners that are willing to work extremely hard to be members of the society. You know, when I first of all started, you know, like I said, I was sold day one on the Department of Local and Small Business because it helped me navigate the maze that is the district government by bringing attention to opportunities and resources that I may not have ordinarily come across on my own. You know, I'll give you a very, you know, brief anecdote. You know, every single time the district disposes of land and or funds a project, you know, a lead developer is supposed to identify a local partner to bring on a deal, to educate them how to become, you know, a big developer. But the policies also exist today such that that small minority developer can become a lead developer. And that's exactly what I've been able to take advantage of is those policies that exist today such that we can take advantage of. And something tells me that those same policies exist, whether it's in OCTO, and you know, if I'm so used to working in the District of Columbia that I know all the acronyms offhand. So for those of you who may not know the acronyms, so the Office of Chief Technology Officer, yeah, there you go. You know, be it OCTO, be it DEMPET, the Deputy Mayor's Office for Planning and Economic Development, whether it's DGS, Department of General Services, you know, or DHCD, those same policies exist today for you to take advantage of, and I strongly encourage you all to do the same. In closing, please make it your business to understand what each and every single one of these agencies do. I'm here to do the same exact thing today. make it your business to sell your business. Express to them the value that you have to offer, and harass them to make sure that they do give you the opportunity. So the district advocacy, the district is willing to take risk. They took a risk with me, and they're still taking risk with me till today. And all I have to do is show up and make sure that I do perform. So I ask you, please take full advantage and remember to tell others that this is a great place to do business. Thank you very much. Thank you.